SCTV used to come on after Saturday Night Live, where I grew up, so it would start at 1, and it wasn't on every week, and some weeks it would be wrestling or something, and it would be so disappointed when it was wrestling. But I was a huge fan of SCTV, and Catherine O'Hara and Andrea Martin, Rick Moranis, Dave Thomas, Eugene Levy, just fantastic, yeah. It was funny. It was really funny. It was all these I liked the interweaving of all the backstage TV station characters with the other, like, then it would drift into what the shows were. I liked the way the characters recurred. It had a different feel than Saturday Night Live, obviously, because it was on tape and it moved around differently.
And the writing.
Mm-hmm.
You appreciated the writing?
Absolutely. The writing was, the way things were interwoven in the writing was really cool. I first went to Second City to take classes in their training center, and even though I had a degree in theater, I thought that wasn't enough, and I had to really start at the beginning of the training center, and so I started from level A, not even level 1, the level A, B, and C, and then I auditioned for level 1, and I think I had to audition more than once to get into the training center, and did it that way.
And then after the training center, then how did you end up on the main stage?
I was in the training center, and then I was lucky enough to become an understudy for the touring company, and then I got a spot in the touring company, and I toured for about 8 months to exotic locations like Waco, Texas, and parts of Kansas, and all over. And then John Glazer, who was an actor on the main stage at the time, left to write for the Dana Carvey show, and Kelly Leonard, in a little creative thinking, moved me into John's parts in Pinata Full of Bees. Even though he was a man and I was a woman, his parts were actually very gender neutral, and so that was the first time there were 3 men and 3 women in the cast. Really? I had studied acting in college and playwriting, and it was not until I started studying improvisation in Chicago that I really felt like I found, oh, this is what makes sense to me. This is the kind of work I want to do. I'm an improviser first, before a writer, and certainly before a regular actor. That was the first process that really made sense to me.
What is it that you like about improv?
Well, I think it's really good for people who are lazy. Improv. You can't prepare. You'd be cheating if you prepared. But I think for me, I think improvisation was a nice mix of the actor's brain and the writer's brain working together. And as a performer, I always preferred performing with other people, and the idea that when you're improvising, you are serving your partner as opposed to being out there by yourself and showing off. That sort of made sense to me. Coming from Second City and Improv Olympic in Chicago, that we all had the same sort of training and background, and if we'd be able to do the job, because the working here is very similar in a lot of ways to working at Second City, in that you have to be able to adapt quickly, you have to produce things quickly and be willing to change them, and not too married or weighed down by your original idea. It was funny, when I first came to Saturday Night Live, I was really welcoming a vacation from performing, because I've been doing 8 shows a week at the Second City, and I was perfectly happy to not perform anymore. And then it did start to creep up on me after a while, and that I missed it. But I would always improvise with the Upright Citizens Brigade on Sunday nights here in New York, and all people I knew all of them from Chicago. And then Rachel Dratch and I started doing a 2-woman show on the side, because she was living in LA and I was working here, and we were missing performing because we had been in the main stage company together. So we started doing that. Right. When you first come to Saturday Night Live as a writer, it is a very stressful, nerve-wracking experience, because the first time you write a sketch and it's read at the table read in that room, your first sketch is never going to go that well, because you don't know the lay of the land yet, and people don't know you yet, and it is this red-hot kind of embarrassment that starts in your stomach and just flushes through your body and in waves, and you're just like, oh, when is this going to be over? But then you build a tolerance to that kind of, between Second City and here, you really build a good tolerance to embarrassment. I think you can describe a comedy environment as very male, because generally there are more males interested in being here than there are women. But my experience has always been that if you are capable, people are happy to play with you. If you're a good improviser, they're more than happy to go to you. And if you're not, if you're weak, it's like a sport. It's like basketball. If someone throws to you, passes to you, and you miss a shot, you're not going to get passed to again. But if you make the shot, everybody's perfectly happy to keep you around. And the women that I've been on stage with at Second City, I toured with Amy Poehler, was in the touring company that I was in, and Rachel Dratch, and Stephanie Weir, who's a genius improviser. There was no question that we were equals with the guys that we were in our companies with.
But having said that, you did kind of break a gender barrier when you became head writer here, right?
Well, yeah, I think that's the whole thing about me being the first lady head writer is really kind of overplayed, because there had not been that many head writers. Only been like 4 or 5 total, and it certainly wasn't affirmative action. It just sort of worked out the way that it did. I think there are differences between the Second City stage and the television stage. I actually think you can be a little bit darker and rougher on the Second City stage, partly because when you're in a theater, people have come to see you, and so they kind of know what they're in for. And in television, you're sort of sneaking into people's homes, so I think you can actually be a little bit darker on stage. And also, there's just a very different tone of sketch and joke. The thing I love about the Second City is there's no parody at Second City. There's no direct parody of a talk show or whatever. Things are you get to issues through a different route. Where here, as part of television, is a natural part of the show that some of it is parody. This show is competitive by nature because every week everyone starts out with the same footing, and by the end of the week, some people get material on the show and some people get stiffed. So it's naturally competitive, but I think it's actually very healthy the way it's competitive, because it starts over every week, and there's a lot of fair grounds, and the read-through is your first fair fight, see who does well there, and then the dress rehearsal is the second completely fair competition. For me, Second City and improvisation in general, which I would include Improv Olympic in that, it completely changed my life, completely defined for me the kind of work I wanted to do, the way in which I could still be a performer. Because if I had to be a regular Stanislavski method actor, I would not have made it, and I would be teaching English in a high school somewhere right now. It was everything to me. First of all, the people I worked with there, I still work with a bulk of them, and they're my closest friends. Joyce would be quick to point out that I met my husband there. She got her husband there. What else do you want? It was just, it was all-encompassing work at the time. When you are there, when you're in Chicago and you're an improviser, it is everything to you. It is a complete cult and a church and everything to you. And it, I think, completely shaped the kind of writer I am today, and and everything about me.